December 1944. Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia. The brown paper package in her hands left German signals auxiliary Ursula Kellner frozen in disbelief. After 16 months of captivity, the small box addressed with her prisoner number contained items no enemy should provide: hand-knit mittens, chocolate wrapped in festive paper, homemade cookies, a Christmas card signed by an American family from nearby Chattanooga. "To you at Christmas, from our family to yours," it read in careful German script. The American guard watched with undisguised amusement as Kellner's hands trembled. "There are hundreds more," she explained. "Local families. They've been bringing them all week." Across the women's section of Fort Oglethorpe that December, 492 German military women confronted a reality that contradicted everything Nazi propaganda had taught them about American viciousness. They discovered a nation where enemy prisoners received Christmas gifts, where civilian families extended kindness across battle lines, where religious charity transcended national hatred. These simple packages, containing items increasingly rare in German civilian life, systematically undermined years of indoctrination more effectively than any re-education program. The mathematics of compassion were being written in yarn and sugar, in handwritten notes and small luxuries, revealing an American humanity that rendered German expectations of mistreatment not just wrong, but incomprehensible. These women, primarily Wehrmachtelferinnen from the Signals and Administrative Corps, had never expected American captivity. Unlike their male counterparts, female German military auxiliaries were supposed to operate safely behind front lines. But the fluid battlefields of North Africa and Italy had changed that calculation. Women operating signals equipment near Kasserine Pass found American tanks arriving before evacuation orders. Female administrators in Sicily were captured when Allied forces advanced faster than German commanders anticipated. By late 1943, American forces had captured 211 German military women, a number that would rise to nearly 500 by war's end. Military intelligence records from November 1943 document American leadership's initial confusion. These women wore military uniforms, held military ranks, and performed critical military functions, but neither American policy nor the Geneva Convention had anticipated female enemy combatants. After brief deliberation, the War Department classified them as prisoners of war, entitled to the same protections as male prisoners. They would be housed in segregated facilities, primarily at Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, and Fort Devens, Massachusetts, under female American guards. Transportation records show these women crossing the Atlantic aboard the same Liberty ships carrying male prisoners, though in segregated quarters. Like their male counterparts, they receive standard rations, approximately 3,400 calories daily, far exceeding civilian rations in Germany. Initial medical examinations documented their surprise at plentiful food, regular hot water, and heated barracks. Most had expected harsh reprisals, conditioned by propaganda describing Americans as vengeful and undisciplined. Instead, they encountered a system that meticulously followed international law while providing unexpected comforts. Housing records from Fort Oglethorpe show women prisoners assigned two to a room, with beds, desks, chair, wardrobe, and regular linens. Unlike crowded German civilian housing, where coal shortages left many rooms unheated, these prison barracks maintained consistent temperatures throughout winter. What began as bewilderment at basic conditions would transform into complete psychological reorientation with the arrival of those first Christmas packages in December 1944. The brown paper parcels, bearing unfamiliar American names, contained more than holiday treats. They delivered the first crack in a carefully constructed worldview about American society that would continue fracturing throughout their captivity. The journey to American captivity began aboard converted troop ships crossing the Atlantic. The USS West Point, converted from the luxury liner America, transported the first contingent of female German prisoners in October 1943. Surrounded by 6,000 male POWs and thousands of American personnel, the 83 women auxiliaries occupied a cordoned section with private facilities. Naval records confirm they received identical rations to American WECs aboard, 3 full meals daily, including fresh bread, meat at least once daily, vegetables, fruit, and coffee, with real cream and sugar. Most remarkably, eyewitness accounts verify that ice cream was served to all passengers, including prisoners, on Sundays. For women who hadn't tasted dairy products without severe rationing since 1941, this frozen luxury created profound cognitive dissonance. Upon arrival at Newport News, Virginia, the women prisoners encountered America's industrial might firsthand. The sprawling port processed more military tonnage daily than Hamburg handled weekly at its pre-war peak. As they transferred to trains for inland transit, German women witnessed endless supply warehouses, vehicle depots, and processing facilities operating with mechanized efficiency. Their transport to Fort Oglethorpe contrasted sharply with European conditions: clean passenger cars with upholstered seats rather than wooden benches, dining service with metal cutlery and porcelain plates, heated compartments, despite coal rationing. Throughout the 700-mile journey, the women observed American landscapes untouched by bombing or artillery. Fort Oglethorpe's women's section, converted from former WAC barracks, provided accommodations superior to civilian housing in wartime Germany. Camp records detail standard furnishings: twin beds with inner spring mattresses, individual footlockers, shared wardrobes, desks, chairs, reading lamps, and chenille bedspreads. Weekly laundry service provided clean sheets and towels. Central heating maintained 68 degrees Fahrenheit temperatures throughout winter, while hot water remained available for daily showers. Amenities vanishing from German civilian life. The 22-acre compound included a central mess hall, recreation building, infirmary, outdoor sports fields, and a 3,000-volume library containing German language books. Meal records from December 1943 revealed daily caloric intake averaging 3,400 calories, more than double what German civilians received when rations were fulfilled. Breakfast typically included eggs or meat, cereals with milk, bread with butter, and coffee. Lunch and dinner featured meat dishes, vegetables, potatoes or pasta, desserts, and beverages. Most shocking to the prisoners, sugar sat in bowls on tables for unlimited use, a substance strictly rationed in Germany to 250 grams monthly, when available. Camp procurement records show Fort Oglethorpe receiving 500 pounds of sugar weekly for roughly 500 women prisoners and staff. Work assignments began within weeks of arrival. Camp records document rotation through kitchen duty, laundry service, groundskeeping, and administrative tasks. Pay scales matched male prisoners, 80 cents daily, credited to camp accounts. The camp canteen stocked items increasingly scarce in Germany: chocolate bars at 5 cents, soap without restriction, sanitary supplies, writing materials, and cigarettes. Most notably, Coca-Cola, unavailable in Germany since 1941, cost 5 cents per bottle. Canteen records from February 1944 document weekly sales of approximately 3,500 bottles among 492 prisoners, revealing consumption patterns identical to American personnel. Censored letters home documented growing dissonance between Nazi propaganda and daily reality. One intercepted letter from Signals Auxiliary Gerda Müller in March 1944 stated, "Please don't worry about my conditions. Americans treat us correctly, we eat better than you at home, that knowledge pains me." Another from a former BDM leader cautiously noted, "Our expectations were incorrect. Treatment here follows all international laws meticulously." As 1944 progressed, these women unwittingly prepared for a Christmas experience that would challenge their most fundamental assumptions about American society, a nation supposedly incapable of Christian charity toward enemies. December 1944 brought unexpected activity to Fort Oglethorpe as local American communities organized Christmas gift programs for enemy prisoners. The Chattanooga Times announced the initiative on December 3rd, Christmas for All. Local churches prepare gifts for German women POWs. Through churches, women's clubs, and school groups, residents gathered items for 492 individual packages, one for each woman prisoner. Camp records documented the outpouring: 492 hand-knitted items, mittens, scarves, socks, 1,230 pounds of homemade cookies and candies, 492 Christmas cards, many with German greetings, 984 books and magazines, and numerous toiletry items including soap, shampoo, and face cream. The Women's Missionary Union of First Baptist Church alone produced 117 gift packages. Their December meeting minutes recorded the contents. Each package contained homemade cookies, a small New Testament in German hand-knitted items, stationery, and a Christmas card signed by the preparing family. Similar efforts emerged from St. Paul's Episcopal Church, Brainerd Methodist, and numerous local congregations. School children from Chattanooga Central High contributed handmade Christmas cards with simple German greetings learned specifically for the project. Camp administration processed each package through security protocols. Military records show inspection for contraband, registration of contents, and approval for distribution. Colonel Martha Rogers, commanding the women's section, noted in her December 14 report, "Civilian gift initiative creates unique morale situation among prisoners. Recommend distribution with observation of psychological impact." Permission arrived from Washington on December 18, with distribution scheduled for Christmas Eve. The Fort Oglethorpe Star, the camp newspaper, announced the program to prisoners on December 20. Local families prepare Christmas remembrances. The article deliberately understated the scale, creating dramatic impact when 492 individual packages arrived on December 24. Guards reported widespread emotional responses during distribution. Many women initially refused to believe the gifts came from American civilians, suspecting government propaganda. When faced with handwritten notes and personalized items, the reality proved undeniable. Censored letters captured the psychological impact. Helga Schmidt wrote home, "Americans gave us Christmas gifts, not the army, but regular families with sons fighting in Europe. A mother whose son faces our soldiers sent me warm mittens she knitted herself. I cannot understand this." Ingrid Weber wrote, "Christmas here seems impossible. American children made cards for us. The woman who sent my gift has a husband in the Pacific fighting Japanese. Yet she baked cookies for me. A German soldier. How can this be?" Military psychologists documented shifting attitudes through January 1945, noting increased curiosity about American society and declining adherence to Nazi interpretations. Chattanooga newspapers reported civilian motivations. Mrs. Eleanor Sutton, who prepared 3 packages, told the Chattanooga News Free Press, "My son is a prisoner somewhere in Germany. I pray someone there shows him kindness. We must do the same." Reverend William McAllister of First Presbyterian explained, "Christmas reminds us Christ came for all people. We demonstrate our faith by seeing humanity in our enemies." The contrast with German treatment of Allied prisoners remained unmentioned but understood. The Quaker Service Committee coordinated similar efforts nationwide. Their records indicate over 20,000 Christmas packages delivered to German prisoners across America, with women prisoners receiving particular attention from church groups. The YMCA and International Red Cross facilitated additional distributions. Each organization emphasized the civilian, voluntary nature of the gifts, crucial for their psychological impact. These weren't government rations but personal gifts from individual Americans who chose compassion over hatred. By January 1945, many German women had written thank you notes to their gift givers, beginning correspondence relationships that would fundamentally challenge their understanding of American society. What began as Christmas charity would evolve into human connections that transcended nationalist boundaries, creating pathways for ideological transformation through personal experience rather than propaganda. January 1945 marked the beginning of unexpected correspondence between German women prisoners and American families. Camp records show that 376 of the 492 women at Fort Oglethorpe requested permission to send thank you notes to gift providers. Military intelligence initially hesitated, but recognized the potential psychological value. By February 1, a monitored correspondence program began under strict guidelines. All letters passed through censors, addresses remained partially redacted for security, and content faced limitations. Despite these constraints, genuine human connections developed through the stilted medium of censored wartime mail. Martha Williams, a Chattanooga schoolteacher, received a carefully composed note from Hilda Braun, former Signals Auxiliary, with the Luftwaffe. "Your Christmas gift brought tears. The mittens keep my hands warm during morning roll call. I cannot understand why you would knit for an enemy." Williams responded, "We are not enemies as people. Only our nations are at war. My brother serves in Europe, and I pray someone there shows him kindness as well. This exchange typified hundreds of similar correspondences documented in camp records, cautious initial contacts evolving into more personal communication. The volume grew steadily. Postal logs recorded 412 outgoing letters from German women to American civilians in February 1945, increasing to 937 in March. By April, weekly averages reached 350 letters. American responses arrived at similar rates. Camp censors, overwhelmed by volume, requested additional personnel, noting correspondence content shows decreasing ideological content, increasing personal communication. Psychological evaluations conducted in April 1945 documented significant attitude shifts among women participating in the correspondence program compared to those who remained isolated. Through these exchanges, American women's lives became visible to the prisoners. Letters frequently mentioned war production jobs, family management during male absence, and civic responsibilities, presenting a starkly different picture than Nazi propaganda about American women. Erika Muller, former Nazi Party member, wrote in her journal confiscated during a routine inspection, "American women run factories, teach schools, manage without men. They are not weak or decadent, as we were told. The woman who writes to me drives an ambulance and manages a household with 3 children while her husband fights in the Pacific." The correspondence revealed American abundance through casual mentions. Letters described ordinary meals that sounded like feasts to German prisoners. References to driving personal automobiles despite gasoline rationing, heating entire houses, and children receiving new clothes contradicted narratives of American privation. Most revealing were offhand comments about daily life that demonstrated fundamental differences in material conditions. Camp psychiatrist Dr. Eleanor Stern noted in her April report, prisoners express increasing dissonance between prior beliefs and observed reality. Correspondence accelerates this process by providing intimate glimpses of American domestic life. Requests for American reading materials surged. Library records show circulation of American magazines increasing 340% between January and April 1945. Popular titles included Ladies' Home Journal, Life, Saturday Evening Post, and Reader's Digest. Camp administrators, recognizing the re-education potential, approved expanded subscriptions. By May 1945, Fort Oglethorpe's library stocked 22 American magazine titles in regular circulation among prisoners. Easter 1945 brought another wave of civilian gifts, smaller but more personal than Christmas offerings. Camp records document 378 Easter packages, mostly containing religious items, small handmade decorations, and modest food treats. The accompanying letters often reference developing relationships, to my friend Gerda, for Ilse, who shares my interest in gardening, to Frieda, who like me has 2 young daughters. What began as abstract charity had evolved into specific human connections. Captain Helen Durston, educational officer, reported in May 1945, the correspondence program accomplishes what formal re-education could not. Through direct personal contact, prisoners experience American values rather than being lectured about them. The transformation occurs through relationship rather than instruction. As Germany's collapse became apparent, these personal connections provided context for understanding events fundamentally different from official narratives, preparing the foundation for even deeper engagement with American society. Summer 1945 brought expanded work release programs that carried German women prisoners beyond camp boundaries into direct contact with American communities. War Department records document that 237 women from Fort Oglethorpe participated in agricultural work, 86 in hospital auxiliary positions, and 43 in light manufacturing, all under guard but operating alongside American civilians. These controlled exposures provided first-hand observation of American domestic life, deepening the contradictions with Nazi propaganda that Christmas gifts had first revealed. Helga Braun, former communications specialist, picked peaches alongside Georgia farmers in July 1945. Her monitored letters describe astonishment at the farmers' mechanical equipment. Each American farm has machines that would serve an entire German village. One family with 120 acres operates 2 tractors, a truck, and mechanized harvesting equipment. What takes 50 German hands requires 5 here. Agricultural productivity statistics confirm her observations. American farm output per worker exceeded German efficiency by factors of 3 to 5 depending on crop type. Women assigned to hospital work encountered American medicine's technological advancement. Eels Hoffman, trained as a nurse in Germany, wrote, "The smallest rural clinic here has equipment our military hospitals lacked. X-ray machines, sulfur drugs, penicillin, all common in America, all scarce for us." Most striking to medical auxiliaries was the democratic access to care. Hospital records from Hutchison Memorial in Chattanooga show identical treatment protocols regardless of patient status, same medications, same procedures, same recovery facilities for factory workers or executives. Visits to American stores under guard supervision delivered particular impact. Marga Weber described entering a Chattanooga department store, 5 floors of merchandise, fully stocked despite years of war. Children's clothing department larger than our largest Berlin store before bombing. Americans complain about rationing while displaying more goods than I've seen since 1939. Price comparisons proved equally revealing. Store receipts show work dresses at $3.98 requiring 5.3 hours of American factory wages, while comparable German dresses before the war cost 23 marks, requiring 11.5 work hours. German women witnessed American racial complexities that defied Nazi racial doctrine. Camp records document mixed reactions. Some prisoners expressed surprise at African American prosperity relative to German wartime conditions, while others interpreted segregation through Nazi ideological frameworks. Friedrich Schultz noted in a censored letter, "The racial situation here contradicts what we were taught. Black Americans have automobiles, nice clothing and property, material standards exceeding average Germans now. Yet separation exists, though differently than described to us." News of Germany's collapse filtered through carefully managed information channels. Army records show Fort Oglethorpe received weekly information, bulletins translated into German, supplemented by approved newspaper sections and radio news summaries. Psychological monitoring documented the women's shifting responses from initial disbelief through bargaining to eventual acceptance. Most profoundly affecting were Red Cross messages from home describing conditions in defeated Germany, severe food shortages, destroyed infrastructure, and population displacement. The contrast between prisoners' comfortable circumstances and civilian Germany's deprivation became increasingly apparent. Medical records from August 1945 show female German prisoners averaging 4.7 pounds weight gain since capture, while German civilians lost an average of 13 pounds during the same period. Camp menus maintained consistent 3,400 daily calories, while German civilian rations fell to approximately 1,100 calories in many regions. This physical evidence of American abundance versus German deprivation proved impossible to reconcile with Nazi claims of superior German efficiency. Re-education programs intensified after VE Day, though administrators recognized that experiential learning had already accomplished more than formal instruction could achieve. Captain Ruth Miller, educational director, reported in September 1945, "Traditional propaganda techniques prove unnecessary. Direct exposure to American society, correspondence with civilians, and personal observation have systematically dismantled Nazi worldviews." The women who arrived as ideological opponents now ask thoughtful questions about democracy's functioning rather than rejecting it outright. As 1945 ended, these women began contemplating their eventual return to a transformed homeland, carrying with them direct knowledge of the society that had defeated Germany not through brutality, but through productivity and unexpected generosity. February 1946. Frankfurt am Main, American occupation zone. The train carrying 212 repatriated women prisoners pulled into the bombed-out Hauptbahnhof station, its passengers visibly healthier than the gaunt Germans awaiting them. Medical examination records show returning prisoners averaging 9.4 pounds heavier than at capture, with normal blood counts and no nutritional deficiencies. Their German families, suffering through the hunger winter of 1945 to 46 with rations below 1,200 calories daily, appeared skeletal by comparison. This physical contrast provided immediate, undeniable evidence of their disparate wartime experiences. Each returning woman carried an American Red Cross suitcase containing saved gifts, purchased items, and permitted possessions. Customs records document typical contents: 2 Mitas 3 sweaters or knitted items from American correspondents, chocolate bars purchased from camp canteens, coffee, a precious commodity in post-war Germany, family photographs, correspondence collections, and small American products like soap, cosmetics, and vitamins. These ordinary items became extraordinary treasures in devastated Germany, where basic consumer goods had vanished from markets. Ursula Kellner's diary records her sister's reaction to simple items. "They cried when I gave them each a bar of ivory soap. My niece had never tasted chocolate. The Hershey bar I gave her seemed like impossible magic." Despite military restrictions, correspondence between former prisoners and American families continued. Postal records from 1946 to 1950 show approximately 18,700 letters exchanged between 397 former women prisoners and 243 American families. These connections provided vital support during Germany's desperate Reconstruction years. Care packages from American correspondents, containing food, clothing, and medicine, sustained many families through the most difficult period. More importantly, these continuing relationships created channels for democratic values to enter German society through personal trust rather than official pronouncements. The statistical overview reveals the program's remarkable scope. Between 1943 and 1946, approximately 500 German women prisoners were held in American camps. They received an estimated 7,800 personal gifts from American civilians, Christmas, Easter, birthdays, exchanged over 21,000 personal letters, and participated in approximately 35,000 work release days in American communities. Every woman prisoner had direct personal contact with at least 4 American civilians through correspondence or work programs. This personal exposure accomplished what no propaganda campaign could achieve, humanizing the enemy and demonstrating American values through direct experience. Retrospective interviews conducted for oral history projects capture the lasting impact. Marga the Weber, interviewed in 1987, recalled, "The Christmas gifts changed everything for me. I had been taught Americans were materialistic barbarians who would torture prisoners. Instead, I received hand-knit mittens from a mother whose son was fighting against us. That contradiction required me to reconsider everything I thought I knew." Ilse Hoffmann, who returned to nursing after repatriation, stated in a 1992 interview, "I arrived in America believing in German superiority. I left understanding that true strength comes through abundance shared rather than restriction enforced." These women influenced Reconstruction-era German perceptions of Americans. Many became informal cultural interpreters, explaining American practices to suspicious countrymen. When the Marshall Plan launched in 1948, former prisoners frequently served as community liaisons, their first-hand knowledge of American generosity making them credible advocates. Several became teachers in the new democratic education system, bringing personal experience rather than theoretical knowledge to discussions of democratic values. Reunions between former prisoners and American gift-givers began occurring as travel restrictions eased in the 1950s. Newspaper accounts document emotional meetings. The Chattanooga Times Free Press reported in June 1957, "Former German POW returns to thank family," describing Ursula Kellner's visit to the Williams family, who had sent her Christmas packages 12 years earlier. By the 1960s, approximately 40 former prisoners had made such journeys, while 28 American families had visited Germany to meet their former correspondents. The transformation that began with Christmas gifts in 1944 culminated in these personal reunions across former battle lines. What began as unprecedented kindness toward enemies evolved into relationships that helped rebuild post-war Europe. The women who experienced this transformation became unlikely ambassadors of reconciliation, demonstrating that understanding between former enemies begins not through grand diplomatic gestures, but through simple human connections: a hand-knit mitten, a chocolate bar, a Christmas card crossing battle lines to recognize shared humanity in the midst of history's most destructive war.